In the end of the 90s, I studied human-computer interaction at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm. And before graduation, we all went on a study trip to Japan. And we ended up in this fantastic, beautiful conference room at one of the largest telecom companies in the world, and they were presenting the new 3G technology to us. It was in the end of the 90s, so this was big news. We're sitting there, and I realized that I absolutely have to go to the toilet. It was really warm out, and I've been drinking a lot of water not to dehydrate. And I realized it would be pretty rude to leave this room, but on the other hand, it would be far worse if an accident happened. So I decided to rush out of that room and running down the corridor and looking for the toilet sign. I found it, I jumped into the booth, and I was in such a hurry that I didn't look. Okay, it's a toilet, that's fine. And I sat down and I did what I had to do. And when I was done, I pulled up my pants and down with the shirt, and I turned around to flush the toilet. And that's when I realized that the toilet is full of millions of buttons with little icons on them, and they all looked like flushing. So which one should I use? I can't stand here the whole afternoon. I have to pick something, and yeah, I'll take this one. It looks most like flushing. And I pressed the button, and to my horrific surprise, a shower comes up from the toilet over the whole of me. And I totally freak out. I run out of the toilet, I slam the door, and I'm like, what was that? Or maybe I don't want to know. What was that coming up from the toilet? And I realized that it's not done. It's spraying like crazy in there, and I have to stop this somehow. I can't leave it like this. So I squat down next to the door, and I take my hand and I stretch it in as far as I can and start fiddling around with all these buttons. And eventually, after interacting with this high-tech toilet, I realized that this toilet can spray water from different angles. It can send out little heat waves, and it will also send out some perfume. Eventually, I find the flush button behind the toilet. And there I am, thinking about this beautiful conference room, spotless, with all these Japanese men in their wrinkle-free suits and my classmates in their best outfits in that conference, when I'm here and I'm drenched by a toilet, by God knows what. I did not even want to think about that. And I felt extremely humiliated, of course, and thinking, what shall I do? Shall I go back into the room? Well, I guess I have to go back into the room. I will go all in on Humiliation 101. I guess I will learn something from that. So I march back to this conference room, and as I walk in through those doors, my desire to make technology easy to use has never been so strong. However, it turns out I've noticed along the way that it's not so easy to make technology easy to use. It's more about technology, just technology itself, actually. So a while later, I'm working as a usability architect at this global web agency. And I'm about to get my first assignment. I am sent to London to do some usability testing on one of the first websites that we have built. And I'm coming in late to the project to test the site, and I'm so excited. So I go off to London, and I start doing this usability test, and I realize that it's like picking mushrooms in a damp forest in September. It's like, there is one, there is one, oh, there are two, and there is another one. I find so many usability problems, and I feel great. I'm doing such a good job. Back at the office, someone decides that I should present the result to the whole company during after work. And at first I feel a little bit nervous about that, but I realized that, all right, it's better to show what we can do with this new role, usability architect. I'm going to show them. This is going to be good. So I stand there and I present all the faults, and I'm really proud. And then when I'm done, I kind of wait for the applause. But what happens is that I get an email from the account director saying, I want to see you in my office tomorrow. You will apologize to the whole company. Then I get an email from the art director saying, I hate you. I will never speak to you again. And I realize, I have not stepped on these people's toes. I have chopped them all off with an axe. They were deeply humiliated and they were angry. And then and there I realized two things. First of all, you can give critique in a much better way than I did. But this is also about a process. And we are doing it in the wrong way. If we started to work with usability and meaningfulness in the beginning of the project, this doesn't have to happen. But at the same time, I was also surprised that I didn't see much of an interest in actually examining the process from the leadership. They were not curious about, why this had happened. They were too focused on being humiliated and angry. Their feeling about, their feeling of humility was too overwhelming. So technology has always been about changing and shaping the industries. But the toilet back in Tokyo, that was kind of an isolated thing. It wasn't connected. The website that we built and tested back in the 90s, again, it was an educational website that the content people preferred to read on paper back then anyway. So no harm done, really. But 20 years later, we're living in a connected society, a digitized society where the connected systems affect us every day and almost everything around us. And the loss and the gains have a far bigger impact than back then. There is a guy called Jim Snabe. He is the member of the managing board at the World Economic Forum, and he wrote earlier this year that the fourth industrial revolution, driven by digitalization, provides a unique opportunity for global leaders to shape our future. At the same time, it also places a momentous responsibility on their shoulders to ensure these transformations will have a positive impact on business and on society. For this transformation to have a positive impact on society, I believe we need to see processes where we're using the processes that we're using to building things in a completely new way. And I also think we need to see behavioral changes among many leaders. Last year in Stockholm, a woman swipes her plastic card to go through the subway gates. She gets the green light, the door opens, and she passes. While on the train, there is an extra ticket control, so the inspector comes and asks to see her ticket, and she shows him her plastic card. He scans it, and he can't see that there is any evidence that she went through the gates, and no money is withdrawn from her travel account for this action. They give her a fine and said that, you've been cheating. We fine you. And she said, no, but I just swiped my card and I got the green light and I passed through the gates. How else could I be here? And they said, no, we can't see any record of that. It's your responsibility to see whether the money is withdrawn or not. On a plastic card that doesn't speak, okay? That's my responsibility. And, she objects. She says, no, I have followed your procedure. I've done exactly what your system tells me to do, and here I am. Now you would think that they might show any interest in why this had happened. You would think that the leaders of the travel company in Stockholm would be curious about this incident and humble to begin with and realize that our system seems to be weak. It's not meeting people's needs and behaviors. It's not so user-friendly. You would think that they'd be curious about this and find out how this could happen. And that they want to learn from this incident. But no, they take this woman to court. Again, the public transport system in Stockholm and elsewhere today, they are not yet very advanced. It's connected, it's built up of different parts, and they're all communicating with each other. But as travelers, we are still not often physically harmed by these systems because of its shortcomings. But what happens when we digitize our total traffic system, when we have the smart subway, when we have the self-driving cars and buses? What happens if the leaders show the same absence of interest in the process for how we build things and services in a meaningful way? It doesn't seem like these leaders are aware of the responsibility that Jim Snabe at the World Economic Forum is talking about. In 2012, Japan was struck by a tsunami, and the Fukushima nuclear power plant was severely damaged. I have an office in Tokyo, and my coworkers at that time were really worried. They didn't get any information from the authorities that they could trust. They hardly got any information at all. People in general in Japan felt very insecure. This made the director of MIT, Yoi Ito, put up a project on Kickstarter where he tried to get funding for, well, in short, a new open platform that would help the Japanese people by using mobile Geiger meters and geographical data and meteorological data to collect and share all this information themselves. And this is actually what happened. All of a sudden, they had all the information and the power that they needed, and they used quite simple technology, actually, to perform, but they worked in a completely new way. And the authorities, they were run over. So the fear of being humiliated and losing face eventually led to the fact that the Japanese authorities were not only losing face towards the people of Japan, they were humiliated over the whole world. And this was an example of a completely new process taking place, built on transparency and co-creation, involving everyone affected, not just a distant few technology experts. To focus on technology solely, to get technology to spit out a result, to show a green light, to give out a ticket, that's fairly easy. Still, we don't get it right. And now, the fourth industrial revolution is not even about technologies. It's about the innovation of entirely new systems that will be integrated in all parts of society, which is even harder. A while back, I performed a study for the Swedish government in order to try to find out the digital competency among people in Sweden. And we were supposed to investigate how people experience their competency in their private life, in their societal life, and in their work life. It turns out that in their private life, people are very confident because they're picking the technologies, the applications, the programs, everything themselves. And they pick the ones that meet their needs. However, in the societal life and the work life, it was completely different for a lot of people. They said, you know, I have to call the IT guy every week. And they said things like, I don't understand technology. And I think you all have heard people talking like that. And this is where the lack of involvement turns dangerous. Because if we keep putting all our trust in technologies and forget that we need entirely new ways of working, new design processes, we might have people not saying, I do not understand technology, but I do not understand society. A revolution in process thinking lies ahead of us, where the reward of empowering and involving the people will come to those global leaders who dare. And it starts with the acknowledgement of true learning from the people around us, and that's not humiliating, that's being humble. Thank you.